Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Green 19 podcast. I'm Dominique Yates, joined as always by Ryan Wood and Tom Silverstein. Hope you all had a Merry Christmas, and hopefully you guys did as well. It was kind of a calm day, nice weather-wise, and it was just the perfect day to just sit inside and do nothing, because that's what I did.
It was enjoyable. Did you do anything fun, Spoon?
No,
Relaxed.
not ordered Chinese food. That's about it.
I would just like to thank Matt LaFleur for giving all of us on the Packers beat the gift of not having to work on Wednesday. I saw that email on the media availability late Monday night. It might have been Tuesday morning by that point. I don't know, but it was after the Saints game, and I just was stunned.
Yeah.
Which absolutely floored that we didn't, it's a Wednesday of a really big week. Yeah. It's a really big week this week. It's a big game. I did not mind that. It's a death march for everyone, especially that team, right? Any team to get to this point in the season. But it was nice to have a day.
Well, they did have to come in, though.
They did.
We got the day off. They didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they did, but I'm sure they were in the classroom quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Did a bunch of walkthroughs. So.
Yeah. Mental work.
Yeah, mental work. But yeah, like I said, it was a nice Christmas and checked out some of those NFL games. And I just, like a side note, some people had issues like with buffering and the quality wasn't very good. It was good on my end because I watched that. I, regrettably watched that Tyson-Jake Paul fight just because it wasn't very good and the quality was horrible. So I thought we were going to get a lot of that for these NFL games. But overall, at least on my end, it was pretty good. Maybe not for everyone else, but
You watched the Tyson fight, huh?
I did.
I'm
Regret
just
it.
learning this. That's a choice.
I did, too.
Did you really?
Yeah, but it kept.
What was the appeal there? I don't need to see an old guy like.
But it's Tyson.
His
You never know what you're going to
I don't
get.
think I had anything else to do that.
Yeah,
night,
That
so-
was also true.
He's old.
True.
I want to see Tyson like 30 years ago. Give me that Tyson.
True. He got my hopes up, though, when I looked at the workout videos on Instagram. And
Wow.
he was moving well.
Father Time's undefeated.
It's very true. But yeah, and even 2020, the Roy Jones Jr. fight, he looked at least more competitive and had some punches thrown. But, I mean, there is a difference. 4 years.
I felt a
can
lot
make,
different
but
4 years ago than I do right now. I can say that.
That is well said. But I just feel different just from last week to this week because I'm just looking forward to what could be a really good game.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of excitement here and for this team and just the anticipation around this game because we've talked about it. And, I mean, you just mentioned it before we came on air. You like this team is 13-2 with Minnesota, and you're not fully sold yet. You don't really know how, basically. We can just take it from there.
There's a very real possibility, gentlemen, that a week from right now, not even a week from right now, let's call it Sunday night, I will be in a position to eat crow. Okay, and I know that the one thing that comforts me in times like these is that I know if I am in that position, Tom Silverstein here will never let me hear the end of it.
I recall you both saying that they were frauds.
I have said many times this season.
You ready for it?
I have.
In that camp, so
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
I have said many times this season, I just don't think Minnesota Vikings are all that good. And Spoon, I still don't think the Minnesota Vikings are all that good. And we'll see.
Well,
we'll
win or
see.
lose, either way, it's not a referendum because they may have to. We'll see how they do in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
One regular season game doesn't matter, but I think you're going to see that the Vikings are pretty good team.
It's killed me in my personal picking with buddies. I've picked the Seattle Seahawks last week to beat the Minnesota Vikings. I picked the Arizona Cardinals at home in Minnesota to beat the Minnesota Vikings. And the thing that this Vikings team does, and it's part of why, I mean, if you look at point differential, they have 2 more wins than the Packers, and the Packers have a higher point differential. I mean, they squeak by. But you know what? I will allow this. There is something to be said about good teams know how to win. Good teams pull close games out. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs this season. In a lot of ways, Minnesota Vikings are, from an NFC standpoint, very similar to what the Kansas City Chiefs have done. They have won a ton of close games, and that is what good teams do. It's just that, to me, when you're looking at the upper echelon of the NFC, which you have to put the Vikings by record and the Packers by record in the upper echelon.
Statistically, too. They're up in every,
they are.
every single category.
They are. When you look, I don't see them being in the same breath as certainly a fully healthy Detroit Lions team. Who knows what they are right now? Philadelphia Eagles, I understand that they had this wonky loss against the Commanders, but Jalen Hurts dropped out of that game with concussion. And I think the Packers are better. I think those three teams are better than the Vikings. The Vikings I would put forth in the NFC. We shall see.
Because of that, I cannot wait for Sunday. There's just so many areas and things that we can look at for this game. But like you said, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm warming up a little bit more to Minnesota because maybe in terms of those close games, grind them out, find a way to win. Maybe that's just who they are. Maybe that's just their identity. Maybe they're not a team that scores 40 points or whatever, blows out teams. Maybe they are 27-24 is like a good win for them. Like we talked a lot with these Packers. It's like we were like, okay, maybe they're going to score 40 or 50 points. Maybe that's just not the type of team they are. Maybe it's just they are who they say they are. What coach said that? Like they are who we thought they were?
Parcells.
Dennis
Green, yes.
Oh, okay. I was thinking they are what the record says. Yeah.
What is it?
They are who we thought they were.
Right. See, I knew
Let
I
them
would
off
mess
the
up.
hook.
Yeah, let them off the hook. But yeah, maybe that, like I said, that's just who Minnesota is. But, I mean, there's no denying that they have some playmakers. And I guess we can even start with when we look at the Vikings, Sam Darnold, and just the year he's had. He's nearing 4,000 passing yards, completing close to 70% of his passes. He's getting the job done. He has good receivers that he's throwing to. But, I mean, just thoughts on the job that Darnold is doing, kind of being thrown into this situation, leading a team that's 13-2.
I think when you talk about Sam Darnold, you have to talk about Kevin O'Connell, too. I think they're one in, 50-50 proposition with them. Kevin O'Connell's a really good coach, really good offensive coach, just like Matt LaFleur, but in a different way. His offense is a little bit different. For whatever reason, Sam Darnold gets away with holding the ball for a really long time, but he's been able to do it. And he's just a smart player. He's turned into a guy who, until he threw the 5 interceptions or whatever it was, 4 or 5. I get that mixed up because Goff had one of those games too. He would have like 7 interceptions this year, and I think he plays to the team's strengths, and he knows how to get the ball to Jefferson. You saw that at the end of the game last week, where how does Justin Jefferson get that open? And part of it's scheming, and it was Darnold, trusting him. So I think Darnold is efficient. Now, can he carry him, all the way through the playoffs? I guess we'll find out about that, and it'll be a good matchup to see which one, Love or Darnold, kind of blinks.
Mm-hmm.
Which one throws the key interception, or which one throws the key touchdown. And so I think that'll be a big storyline in the game.
Sam Darnold, to me, has been very Brock Purdy-ish this season. The thing that Brock Purdy does very well, makes him a good quarterback, is that he knows how to just quickly get the ball to his playmakers. He plays the point guard position very well behind center, right? Just don't do too much, too flashy. You don't need to. You're surrounded by talent. Just get the ball to your talent and do it in a timely fashion. That's what Sam Darnold does. I mean, he's surrounded by talent. He's got the best receiver in the game. He's got Aaron Jones in the backfield, one of the best running backs still this season, even at age 30. I mean, and I'm reminded that, speaking with Aaron Jones late last season, he was convicted that he was not going to have a tail-off year in 2024. He's like, I've never felt better than this. And he hasn't. He's had a really, really good year. Sam Darnold he sits there and he gets the ball in a timely fashion to his playmakers. It's very Brock Purdy-ish to me.
Just when you look at the rest of the Vikings offense, are there some areas that the Packers, you could say, need to exploit, or what they need to do to try to have some success? Like, are there any holes in this offense for the Vikings?
Well, their left tackle is on injured reserve, and they went and signed Cam Robinson from Jacksonville, and he's a solid veteran, but he's not Christian Darrisaw. Darrisaw is, a man, and I think they can exploit that. I think they've had some times when they've been able to work on Brian O'Neill a little bit, and then Kenny Clark has had some really good moments against Garrett Bradbury. But I honestly think that what they have to limit Jefferson, just keep him from scoring touchdowns, and I'm really eager to see what they do with Edrin Cooper. Like, he could be a factor in covering Jefferson. And I'm not talking about running down the field. I'm talking about dropping into coverage. When is he dropping? When is he blitzing? When is he staying in to play the run? I mean, they really need to use him as an X factor where Darnold has to be aware of where he is all the time. And I don't know. I've seen some games, some really big games where the Packers have played really good set of wide receivers. And the first time was in 1995, and the San Francisco 49ers had Jerry Rice, they had John Taylor, they had Brent Jones, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a few guys. And
Terrell Owens then, or no?
No, not yet.
Before Terrell Owens.
But they went in there and they beat the crap out of the receivers at the line of scrimmage. Just said, you know what? Nobody ever does that. They're always afraid of it. We're going to beat them up at the line of scrimmage. They did, and they won. 2010, they had a game in New England where it was sort of their turnaround and sort of vaulted them towards the Super Bowl. They lost, but Rodgers got hurt and was out with a concussion. Anyway, Brady had Wes Welker. God, I can't forget who all his receivers were. Cliff Branch, not Cliff Branch. Brian.
Deion Branch.
Deion Branch.
Deion.
Yep, Deion Branch. Anyway, what did they do? They put Charles Woodson right up in Wes Welker's face and wouldn't let him off the line of scrimmage. And I wonder if Jeff Hafley has, any kind of sense about doing something like that, like totally foreign to what they do and disrupt those guys at the line of scrimmage. I'm really curious to see if he would do something like that.
You know what you better have if you do something like that? You better have the safety help over the top, and that's where this defense might be able to get away with that. If you put a Keyshawn Nixon up in Justin Jefferson's face, well, he's going to get beat a few times. You better have but Xavier McKinney's back there, and he can take care of some mistakes.
You got to have a pass rush too. I mean, that '95 team had Reggie White, and so you can't hold on to the ball very long. Yeah. And the 2010 team had a good pass rush too. So that's the whole key. Those guys would have to be getting to Darnold fast so that he would have to get rid of it.
Week 4, when these two teams last played, they were coming off that week 3 pass rush explosion in Tennessee with 8 sacks. And it looked like, okay, because if you go back to training camp, none of us thought that this pass rush was going to struggle anywhere near the way that it did. It wasn't supposed to. This was a very, very, very good defensive front in 2023. There was the transition this season, obviously, to a 4-3 defense, but it looked good in camp, right? Which is why I always say every time camp rolls around, this doesn't mean much because you never know what's going to happen in the season. But it looked good in camp. They finally get untracked after having, Anthony Richardson week 2, Jalen Hurts week 1. So not a real chance to just pin your ears back and go get a quarterback. They finally have Will Levis. They get 8 sacks. It looks like it's supposed to. And then they come in week 4 against Sam Darnold. They hit him 3 times to get 2 sacks. That was it. There was next to no pass rush at all. And that really started the downward slide. So that, to me, defensively is the big question, is they've now finally had 2 really good pass rush weeks in a row. And even obviously, knocking Geno Smith out of the game in Seattle, having 7 sacks, that speaks for itself. Even last week, I get it was against Spencer Rattler, but that Saints offensive line had not been giving up sacks this season. They were among the 10 fewest sack teams in the league. So getting 3 and having pressure just all game on a rookie quarterback, that meant something against that Saints offensive line. Can they do it now against the Vikings offensive line that has given up, they're top 10 among the most sack teams in the league. I mean, they are vulnerable. You can get after them. They didn't do it week 4. Have they turned that corner now? I think we're going to learn that in this game.
Yeah. What was it? Did the Vikings start? Was it 21-0, 28-0?
28.
It was 28-0. I think that there alone is what is just going to – I'm curious in terms of how do you open the game too, because the Packers have started these games as of late really strong. Maybe those first 2 or 3 drives they're scoring, but also the defense has responded with not only takeaways, but getting 3 and outs, getting pressure. So I think there's so much of that I'm curious to see how much the Packers defense has grown compared to was that week 4 in that game. And you would imagine they have, but again, you don't really know until you say you line up against those opponents. And when you talked about the secondary, obviously maybe they could get a boost with Javon Bullard. He's back to practice. Hasn't been Evan Williams. But in particular with the corners, a guy you talked about, Keyshawn Nixon, the last podcast, I believe you said he's doing some really good things. So right now, would you see him, who knows with Jair Alexander, but do you think he might be the guy to go on Jefferson or Addison? Or, how do you think they might navigate it?
It kind of depends on what Hafley does. So if he sticks with his zone defense, there's no need to move anyone around. Although, so what happens if Jair Alexander plays, then he would be outside. Would Nixon be outside, or would they play him in the slot to cover Jefferson? I don't know if Bullard's ready to play in the slot, but maybe he is. Maybe they could use him in a run support position, playing zone. I don't know. That'll be a question to watch, is do they move Keyshawn Nixon to the slot, or do they keep him outside? You might be able to, with Jair Alexander and Keyshawn Nixon outside, you might be able to put all your focus on the inside of the field and, sort of take away all this crossing stuff that Jefferson does. So that'll be kind of interesting to see. Zane Anderson has been playing really well, and I would want him on the field. Not that I've soured on Bullard, but, he's not going to be 100%, I don't think. Yeah. Maybe he's not even playing. We don't know. Just because he was out there, we know they use practice as rehab. So,
and a lot of the times it's that first week back that you just kind of shut it down late in the week. First week back of practicing, and then it's the next week that you actually play. So that's something to watch too.
Yeah, so it'll be just, again, intriguing how that's what I love too about this game. It's just it's a chess match. Like, who's going to counter, who's going to have a response, who's going to try to throw different things out there, try to keep the defense guessing. And that is one thing, the Packers defense, they've done some good things at times, especially disguising guys and knowing, especially they've had some good success with Keyshawn Nixon when he's blitzed. So again, it's going to be a very interesting matchup. Is there anything else defensively you're looking at, or you want to jump into some offense a little bit, or is there anything you
just defensively, the one thing they've not done is let the ball get over their heads, and they got to not let Jefferson do that. Now, a lot of times his stuff is catch and run, but that's a key. I mean, I think they've given up like one 40-yard pass all season, so that'll be something to watch too.
It's very true. You get a guy with 1,400 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns. He loves those explosives. So Packers have done a solid job. That stat you had was pretty money, about only one pass more than 40 yards. So
yeah, and McKinney said something that I think all people agree with. People who face Justin Jefferson, he's gonna get his yards. But you just have to contain him. You can't let him go off for 3 touchdowns. You can't blow coverages and let him go running free in the secondary. If he gets 8 catches for 80 yards, I think you'd be happy.
Oh, that's
a
huge
touchdown.
Game. Yeah, that's a huge game for the Packers defense. But that's all it is.
Now he didn't have a huge game.
That's what I was going to say.
Week 4,
yeah,
right?
Didn't really burn him. No.
And the second half, well, he actually had more catches in the second half. Like in the first half, when they went up 28-0, he had like 1 catch. But they gave up 3 points in the second half. Yeah. So something they were doing was right, and they didn't have Jair back then either.
Yeah. So now when we look at the offense, we've talked a bunch about them. I mean, what's the streak though they are on? 5 straight games of scoring more than 30 points?
That's incredible, isn't it? It's never happened in the Matt LaFleur era.
No.
And until now.
Yeah.
And every single week it's like, they could have scored more. Like, it's just I don't. That's true. It's true they could have scored more, but I think we should also be able to say 5 straight weeks of 30 points is pretty damn remarkable. Yeah. That's really, really good.
That's true, scoring wise. And that is true. It is so on paper you can say they haven't had many dud performances offensively, like they've scored the points, but again, sometimes when you line up with certain defenses, especially a Vikings defense, they're going to come at you, they're going to blitz you, they're going to do twists and turns, all kinds of gadgets and gadgets. I'm just making up words right now to describe what this defense will do, but the Packers offense, you say they have to be on their toes, but it's going to be interesting for me to watch this game more than anything because week 4, it was Jordan Love's first game back. He's playing his best football right now. He's not getting sacked. He's not turning the ball over. So that's one guy for sure. Once again, how does he come out and handle this game? Because what do you have, 3 interceptions in that game against the Vikings?
Yeah.
So
4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
Right?
So what is he going to do in this game is going to be interesting.
He's also coming off a bit of a dud performance against the Saints for his own standard, against a Saints defense that is entered 4th in the league in opposing passer rating. So that Saints defense that can make it very difficult for you. I don't know where the Vikings are in that, but
they lead the league in interceptions.
Yeah, they're opportunistic. So that it's going to test the streak, which Jordan Love should have thrown a pick off a batted ball against the Saints. And as Matt LaFleur said, a Saints defender had a PBU against his own guy. So, the streak lives.
Yeah.
Now 5 games in a row with no picks.
Since the bye, right?
Yeah. They had the 1 pick and overthrow in Tucker Kraft in Chicago after the bye, and then the past 5 games since then, no picks. So the streak lives. Can it live another week? We'll have to see. But I think regardless of Jordan Love, this offense is going to be what it is. It's going to run through Josh Jacobs, and it's been a transformative presence that he's had. The Packers didn't just add a superstar when they signed Josh Jacobs. They changed their offense. They are 4th in the league in rushing. That has not happened in the past 20 years for the Packers. They have not been top 5 in rushing offense. Not one time with Aaron Jones, not one time with Aaron Rodgers. Not since 2003. So this is just, the offense is going to be what it is. It's going to be Josh Jacobs, a cloud of dust, and then Jordan Love accentuating when he can over the top. We'll see if Christian Watson plays this week. Obviously, he didn't practice today, but he's going to have guys. I think Tucker Kraft's the one guy that every single week you got to be throwing to because it's easy completions. He makes plays after the catch. There's going to be plays to be made there, but it's going to start and really end with Josh Jacobs.
Yeah. What area of the offense are you more curious to see lining up with the Vikings? Is it how can they run the ball, or what will the passing game look like?
Well, the first thing I'm interested in, so that first game, you said Love, first game back. And so Brian Flores, their defensive coordinator, blitzed the Jesus out of him, if that's a word I can use.
Yeah, it is.
He blitzed like 50% of the time, and his ratio is like 38 or something like that, 34. So they knew he was not mobile. And they did. They pressured him into several interceptions. Now, go back a year ago in Minnesota, and they blitzed the crap out of him. And
bejesus?
Bejesus.
And
we'll say bejesus.
He tore him apart. They had an answer for all those blitzes. So now the chess game moves back. Okay, the Packers have beaten the blitz with one way. Flores has forced Love into some interceptions another way. Now, whose turn is it this time? So that's what I'm really curious to see. And then, Jacobs, there's been some games in my time, and it's really interesting that you bring up 03 because that was Amon Green.
Yep.
And the Packers couldn't win in Minnesota, and they went up there with Mike Sherman, and that was their game plan. They would just pound Amon Green. Just took their defensive line or offensive line. They had a really good offensive line, and they would just keep pounding on them. I'm not sure that's not a bad strategy on Sunday. Make them stop Josh Jacobs, and if they can, more power to him. But he's the straw that stirs the drink.
Spoon, I'd be shocked if that wasn't the game plan this week, and then when the playoffs roll around every single week, because that gets the best out of Jordan Love, too. I think that – this is my hypothesis. I think when Aaron Jones had the best 5-game stretch of his career to close last season, I almost feel like it ran him out of Green Bay. Because the Packers, Brian Gutekunst had to see that and had to think, boy, we could have that every week of the season. If we can get a guy that's 4 years younger that is built to be a workhorse, and that's our offense – those 5 games, Jordan Love was tremendous. It was the game in Dallas, right? Look at how well Jordan Love played that. Aaron Jones had 3 rushing touchdowns. He those 5 games brought the best out of Jordan Love, and you've seen Josh Jacobs bring the best out of Jordan Love here this season. And so it's no coincidence. Since the bye, Josh Jacobs fixed the red zone offense. Since the bye, Jordan Love's playing his best football. Like, it coincides. So, Jordan, it's tough to talk about Josh Jacobs without, and it shouldn't come at any slight to Aaron Jones. He's having another tremendous season this year, 1,000 yards rushing. He's 11th. He's 11th in the league in carries. He's had a very significant workload in this very good Vikings offense. But what Josh Jacobs has done this season, 1,216 yards, 13 touchdowns. He's had a better rushing season than Aaron Jones already had ever had here in Green Bay. Aaron Jones' best season, probably 2019, 1,084 yards and 16 rushing touchdowns. I would take these 15 games, and there's still another game to add with Josh Jacobs over even 2019 Aaron Jones. Now, the thing that Aaron Jones gives you is the flexibility and the multiplicity in the offense as not just a receiving threat out of the backfield. He lines up all over the place. We haven't seen that from Josh Jacobs, but we have seen Josh Jacobs become much more of a factor in the receiving game over the past month, and that's only helped Jordan Love as well. So, these guys, they're two of the best running backs in the league.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
Which one of those guys is more motivated going into the game?
Oh, certainly Aaron Jones.
That's
No question,
agree.
right?
That's
And that's not to say that
true.
Josh Jacobs isn't motivated, because here's the thing, and I'm curious what you think, but Josh Jacobs, he came from football Siberia, and now he's here.
Yeah.
He has plenty of motivation, too. He wants to continue to let the good times roll as much as he can, because Josh Jacobs, maybe more, and Xavier McKinney, more than any other player in that locker room, knows that good times are not to be taken for granted in this league. It is rare to be in this position. So I think there's plenty of motivation. But the Vikings didn't cut Josh Jacobs. I mean, it's a little different, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's definitely, yes, Aaron Jones. But it's going to be fun, though.
But Jacobs knows who he's replacing. He knows.
Yeah.
He knows how far Aaron Jones helped take the Packers last year, and I'm sure he feels that burden too.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I think it's Aaron Jones.
Yeah, Jacobs, he made a great point in the locker room after the game. He said, I want to leave a legacy here. And he said, you can't really leave a legacy if you're not going to the postseason and winning games. So now he's in a position playing for a team that can go to the playoffs, can try to make a run in the playoffs. But if he's a factor, it changes so much about maybe even how he's viewed, not only in Green Bay, but it's across the NFL. And that's still kind of that edge that Aaron Jones has. He's been into the playoffs, had some success, on top of, you could say, being a beloved player. So, yeah, Jacobs is motivated, but again, you're playing your old team. That's just going to be something that's going to be a given.
Here's a question, though, because you asked a question, Spoon. It's a good question. Who's the better runner?
I think
I haven't seen enough Jones. I'll let
I think Aaron Jones is a more complete back.
More explosive.
Because he's got the home run. And with Josh Jacobs, you have to be a certain style. You do with Aaron Jones too. That's a tough call. I would take Josh Jacobs because he's more durable right now.
Yeah.
But if you said at Aaron Jones's peak in his career, that'd be a hard one.
I think what we've seen from this season as a whole and across the NFL, not just here in Green Bay, but certainly here in Green Bay, volume matters in the run game. I mean, look at Baltimore, look at Philadelphia. Look at the Rams and Kyron Williams. He's had a great year, and he's really helped that offense through some lean times from the injuries perspective.
Derrick Henry,
this group of running backs for a few years now, have been overlooked from the NFL marketplace. They have banded together and said, hey, this part of the game still matters for something. And I think that this season they have shown that. Yes, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Green Bay, all top 4 NFL rushing offenses, all the top 3 running backs in the league right there. It coincides. I mean, there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Jacobs actually talked about that a couple of weeks ago. I remember I asked him, I said, do you pay attention to what Barkley or him, do you look at other numbers and stats and follow along from a competitive standpoint? He said no. He said, but I love that there's love given to the running backs again, and you see a lot of that. So it's just like those fraternities. I remember how Tucker Kraft was passionate with the Kirby Joseph. He injured some of my guys talking about other tight ends. It's very much a fraternity, and you're seeing that. And So it has been unique seeing, like you said, that surge in the NFL with running backs.
You mentioned legacy with Josh Jacobs. He's on pace right now, we'll see, but he's on pace right now through 2 games left to finish with, I think, 1,378. Be 4th all-time in Packers for single-season Packers history. If he gets 15 touchdowns, there's only 2 that have ever had more than him, and that's Aaron Jones. It was 16 in 2019, and it's, I'm drawing a blank.
Amon Green?
No, it was glory years.
Dorsey Levens?
No, glory years, 60s.
Oh, 60s. Jim Taylor?
Yeah, it's Jim Taylor with 19. So, he's having a top 5 all-time rushing season in Packers history. That's what you are seeing right now. Pretty good. For season 1, it's a pretty good way to start a legacy.
Yeah. I guess the only thing that stands out to me with him, I guess my last point on on Jacobs and talking about what Jones would, still blows my mind still to this day. Like, he'll get the ball, met at the line of scrimmage or maybe behind the line of scrimmage. You're like, okay, broken play. And then you look up, like, how did he get 4 yards on that? Mm-hmm. How did he get 3 yards on that? How did he get 5 yards on that? And then he'll hit you with a few of those just surprise plays. And, like, the stiff arm to Tyrann Mathieu was just ridiculous. And he didn't even watch it. He didn't see the end result. So when he saw it in the locker room, his only thing was, man, I should have dove for the end zone and got a touchdown there. But he's making some pretty just dynamic plays. And, again, it's going to be just a unique matchup. I guess my last thing with the offense, with the passing game, if Christian Watson, if he's not available, who are you? I know you talked about Kraft, and we can talk more about that, but who are you kind of looking for? Dobbs or Wicks or Reed, or is there anyone there?
I think Dobbs will be a guy who will have a lot of impact in that game. I am going to predict my first play.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Spoon special.
Let's make a note of that,
That
right?
was 3 years ago?
Yes,
2 years ago?
2022.
Yeah, I got that right.
Well, you gotta remind us of the story here. I don't know if Dominique knows the story.
Yeah, so we were, what was it, first game of the year?
It was first game of the year,
first game of the
2022.
year.
First game of Christian Watson's career.
And I don't remember how we got into that discussion with Cassidy, but I just said, first play of the game, they're going to throw deep to Christian Watson. Just watch. Rodgers going to uncork it. And that's exactly what he did. Christian Watson dropped.
Yep. Would have been a 75-yard touchdown. It went right through his hands.
Yeah, right through his hands. On Patrick Peterson.
Yeah. Toasted him.
Yeah.
I mean, just toasted him off the line.
Yeah, Rodgers talked to Peterson after the game and said, we had you so bad. It's like, I never saw that coming,
Spoon did.
Yeah. So my play this year is play action, Luke Musgrave down the middle.
Oh,
hold on.
Okay.
Mark that down. Yep, mark that down.
Okay.
Nobody's seen him.
Nobody
double
would see
tight
that
end.
coming.
They go double tight end. Vikings are up in a blitz lock.
Oh, that'd be something.
That'd be money, honestly. Hopefully,
That's what I do. LaFleur listened to me last time, so I'm sure he's listened to the
Now,
podcast.
why not?
does Luke Musgrave catch it this time?
Good
That's an important part of this whole
Well, we
prediction
know he'll
process.
stumble and fall right after.
Yeah.
If he does catch it.
Yeah.
He won't finish the touchdown.
Stay on your feet.
Yeah, so if LaFleur listens to the podcast, it's good. I guess you better hope Brian Flores isn't listening.
Yeah. I don't care. He can do whatever he wants.
That's right.
Go ahead. I hope he's listening.
But, I mean, it would be unique because he was able to get some reps in the last game, and he's been practicing. He's been going through it. So
Just be unlikely. It's like
Very.
I would be worried about Luke Musgrave at this point. Put two tight ends in, you think you're going to run it with Josh Jacobs.
Spoon, if this actually happens, the look of astonishment that we're going to share in that press box right afterwards is going to be
I
something.
may turn in my papers up.
Or
we
be like,
should. We should just we should stop what we're doing. Just go down. We could do the Wayne's World. We're not worthy.
Yeah, right.
We'll just bow down to Spoon if.
Spoon's reputation is such that I'm fully expecting this to happen now. I'll actually be very surprised if it doesn't. It actually makes a lot of sense. Like, no one's going to see that coming.
That's true.
I've been pretty wrong since then. I predicted other first plays, and I've been pretty wrong. So
That would be good.
Anyway,
I about to say, but yeah, if they score like a 60-yard bomb or something on this play, yeah, Spoon. Yeah, I'm asking you for lottery numbers.
play
too.
action is going to be a part of this game. It's got to be. It's got to be. Minnesota's not going to let him run free.
Yeah. So
Anyway, okay.
it's gonna be good. Any final thoughts or words or anything? Maybe special teams or anything else you guys want to touch on as we near the end of the show?
You touched on it with your story on McManus, and there's significance to him kicking that 55-yard field goal. This guy, I went back and looked, and he's kicked like 47 50-yarders, I think, in his career. Might be 49 with playoffs. But he has had to kick outdoors almost, he was in the AFC West, so there were no indoor stadiums in the AFC West until Oakland moved in, and then the Chargers moved into theirs. But that was only in 2020, I think. So I went and looked at all his 50-yarders. Almost all of them were outdoors. And it makes me wonder, going into this game, and when they go on the road, if they have to go to Detroit, is LaFleur going to say 60-yarder, to win the game, or 60-yarder to tie it, or, let's just do it, try it and see. As you pointed out, he's having just a great year, and he said, I didn't realize he was kicking into the wind in that game. When I was watching that warm-up and he hit the 57-yarder, I was sure the wind was behind him. So that's something to consider,
Yeah,
especially indoors.
Yeah.
It's going to be that time of year, too, right? Where those kicks mean everything, and it's a big deal. It is a big deal that they've put someone in that position finally that they can actually rely on and count on this time of year.
Well,
we're going to see that.
Yeah, didn't Narveson miss one or two field goals in the first game against the Vikings? Did he miss?
Sure did.
He did, yes.
He did. He missed two of them in that game.
They lost by 2, and they would have won if he made the field goals.
Right.
Yeah, so that is true. So it's going to be, it just like we've said, so much changes when you just throw a vet into the mix. And he said it. I've seen it all. I've been through it all the conditions and all. So, yeah, it changed a lot for that special teams and just the group as a whole. It seems like even Keyshawn Nixon's having some success in the return game and kicks. And except for Wheeling, though, in his punts, those haven't been too high.
He needs to have a huge game in the Dome.
Yeah.
He really needs to be at his best because they're going to need that.
Yeah, because those last two games were a little rocky. So, any other parting words from you guys as we get ready to wrap up the show?
I'm picking the Packers. We'll see if I eat crow.
I'm going to say go to Journal Sentinel, PackersNews.com. I'll have my pick there. I'm just kidding. They can't give them everything.
No, that's fine. I usually don't. You guys, I'm just, that's where my head is. I'm just, what I'm doing right now is I'm processing what's awaiting me here, okay? I've kind of put myself out there. I don't feel real comfortable about that, but I'm picking the Packers. I don't think the Vikings are all that good. They're certainly not as good as the record. I'm picking the Packers. And I want to hear all kinds.
You can't say certainly. You don't know that for certain.
No, that's fair. I'm a little nervous about this week, Spoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little nervous about I don't think they're this good. And if they are, it's going to be a fun podcast on Sunday night.
Oh, it's going to be.
Oh, I'm not going to hear the end of it.
The only thing that would be better is if there's a Vikings fan that's watching this pod, they screen record the part of you just saying how bad they are, and then they blast it on Twitter or X afterwards.
Put it all over their locker room.
Right. It would be a little funny, just a little bit to me, just because.
I don't need the attention. I don't need it.
Yeah,
I don't need it.
I know you got enough hate after dissing stuffing and all that other good stuff.
Stuffing's terrible. I'm very confident in that. I can say certainly about that.
Well, hey,
stuffing is certainly terrible.
Okay, we're definitely done here.
Yeah.
Thank you all for checking out the Green 19 podcast. Another big game in Minneapolis, Minnesota on Sunday. The Packers and Vikings get ready for a game set for 3:25. It was moved around a little bit, so it's going to be a big one there. And me personally looking forward to a trip to Minnesota to check out this game. So for Ryan Wood, Tom Silverstein, I'm Dominique Yates. Thanks for checking out the Green 19 podcast.